Good morning, good afternoon. I would like to welcome our audience today to the very topical discussion on how to address violence against women and girls and the role that different actors can play in doing so. So we have an esteemed panel today to address some of these questions, and I'm very happy to introduce Mr. Carl Foulkes, who's the Chief Constable in North Wales Police, Professor Paul Wainaina, the Vice Chancellor at the Kenyatta University, and Professor Vahan Agopyan, President of the University of São Paulo. Welcome, and I would like to move to the first question. So we've just heard in the first panel discussion from business leaders on how they are tackling gender-based violence. But of course, it goes without saying that violence against women and girls happens everywhere. And it's a complex phenomenon, and we all have a role to play. So if you can please tell us about the work you are doing in your space and how you would have been able to, what you have been able to achieve. So if I can please start with Mr. Carl Foulkes, over to you.
Diolch, thank you very much. So first of all, everybody has the right to feel safe wherever they are, whoever they are, and should not feel responsible for other people's behaviours. I think the tragic murder in London recently around Sarah Everard has put a real focus on policing in the UK of what are we doing and what more can we do to tackle and protect the most vulnerable in our society. So policing in the UK has some clear work streams that have already been in place around rape and serious sexual violence, around domestic abuse, and around stalking and harassment. But we've recognised that we need to do more. And that is specifically around safety in the public place, around the criminal justice system and how we target offenders that are committing these levels of violence, around how we record incidents and crimes going forward, and so we get the biggest picture we possibly can. There is something around our own behaviour in policing and how do we challenge some inappropriate behaviour and how do we make sure that we are responsive to those that need our help. How do we engage the community and how do we engage people that are suffering from violence more effectively? And then how do we monitor and use scrutiny better? We can only do that with the support of partner agencies. We can only do that support of groups, and we can only do that as a more joined up system approach.
Thank you very much. And over to Professor Paul Wainaina, please.
For us at Kenyatta University, first of all, we have recognized that the issue of gender violence is really pervasive. And because of that, we already have a center. We have identified a directorate, which actually takes care of all those issues to do with gender violence. First of all, we have generated policies for gender violence, against gender violence. We have actually policies to do with the gender enhancement, particularly where we are looking at gender equity. And the chair, it is very, very important for us to know that it is unique in a university setting.
Thank you, Professor Wainaina. Very important comments. So if I can move over to Professor Agopyan in order for him to share his own reflections. Over to you, Professor.
Thank you. This is a very complex problem, so we have several approaches to deal with it. The first one, of course, is the cultural changing, the efforts for changing the culture inside the university with the community. The community has to move for gender equality. So this is the work of the University of São Paulo Women's Office, incorporating the gender agenda at the core of the administration. Let's say the commitment of the center of the administration with this problem, tackling the gender-based violence from different perspectives, formulating programs and educational actions. Let's say give visibility to GBV, organizing and leading research, let's say, increasing the knowledge about the GBV, measure the students' perceptions, communication, educational campaigns, and partnerships, as it is impossible to isolate the phenomenon of GBV for the intersections with other structural inequalities.
Thank you very much for the first round of reflections. And I would like now to move to the second question. If you can please let us know now, based on your own work and what you have done successfully so far, what actions do you hope individuals listening today will take going forward to do their part in ending the shadow, or not so much shadow anymore, pandemic of gender-based violence? Can we please ask maybe this time from Professor Wainaina? Thank you, over to you.
Thank you very much, moderator. I think for us, the issue of the pandemic has brought out certain things that has made our society become kind of stressed. And we have seen a lot of this. And we are trying very much, particularly in those communities where this is happening, to make sure that people are talked to so that psychologically they are able to be prepared. We have a lot of, for example, in the university, we do have university chaplains who looked after the students, and they are doing a very good job in terms of trying to make sure that that violence that is being caused by stress is not actually meted to women who look weak. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Wainaina. So, Professor Agopyan, if I can turn to you, what would you propose that our audience should do in order, we all have a role to play after what we heard today in addressing violence against women and girls?
Initially, it is clear for us that the scenario to end GBV and empower women and girls to achieve gender equality is a path of no return. So we have the responsibility to engage men and boys to transform cultural values, practices, and actions.
Thank you. Mr. Foulkes, if you could please share your own reflections.
Diolch, thank you. Always difficult to follow two eminent speakers. So as a senior police officer, a father and a husband, I absolutely believe this has to be everybody's responsibility. Men need to start standing up and start calling out behaviours and recognising the impact their behaviours have on women and girls. And what I would ask those that are listening to reflect around their organisations. Are people calling out behaviour? Are people challenging sexual harassment in the workplace? Are people challenging inappropriate language or behaviour? Is misogyny rife in their organisations? And what are they doing to challenge those behaviours that we see? I fundamentally do think we need to stop shaming victims that come forward and report inappropriate behaviour, and recognise that we need to focus on the perpetrators that are committing these types of behaviours, who think it is acceptable to do so, both in the workplace, in the home place, and in the public place.
Excellent. I would like to thank our audience and our panelists for this excellent discussion.